What is up, boys? We are back again for another edition of the Lucrative MMA betting show. In this one, we're going to be speaking about a banger of a main event, Asu Almabayev taking on Manel Kape in the main event. Last time Kape had a fight, I told you to bet on the under 2.5 rounds, and that one cashed against Bruno Silva. So hopefully I'm going to have a couple of good predictions and bets for you on that fight. But we have many other fights. Cody Brundage taking on Julian Marquez in the co-main event. To be honest, I don't know how that one made it to the co-main event slot, but here we are. We got an absolute banger in Nasrat Haqparast taking on Esteban Ribovics. So I'm sure I'm gonna have a bunch of predictions, a bunch of bets for you, as I always do. Last week was a very solid event. I cashed my max bet, which was the biggest bet I've made since Peyton Talbot took on Cameron Simon about a year ago. So congratulations everybody who signed up to me and got that max bet. We cashed odds of -160 for the parlay with Mansour Abdel Malik and Fluffy Hernandez getting it done for us. That made it a successful and profitable night for me, and so I hope to do the same this weekend. I hope to profit and continue the win streak. So cue that intro and let's get into it, boys. All right, boys, what is going on? I hope everyone's doing well. As you can see, I'm not in my natural environment, just like I wasn't last week. I'm taking a bit of an extended holiday. I am showing my family around New Zealand. They've come to visit me. So I'm here, there, and everywhere showing them around. Obviously, I'm very blessed in my job. I can basically go wherever I want around the world and still work and still earn money. And that's exactly my goal today, you know. I made sure that I brought my camera, I brought my tripod, so I could still bring the heat for you guys, even though I'm on holiday right now. You know, when you're a gambler, you never fully have a day off because there's always sports games going on. And considering I bet on basically every sport out there, there's not really a day off. So I'm on the beach right now. I'm gonna have a swim in a minute, but I gotta get this done first. Of course, I gotta bring the bets to the people. So let's get into it, boys. No more essing about. Let me take my mic off so you can hear me properly. So in the main event of the evening, we have Manel Kape coming in with a record of 20 wins with 7 losses. And the challenger, I call him the challenger because he's fighting for Manel Kape's number 6 ranking, Asu Almabayev. He is coming in with a very similar win record of 21 wins with only 2 losses. And those losses come quite a bit earlier in his career. So he's been on a long win streak for a very long time now. But the odds makers seem to not care too much about that because they have Manel Kape as a big favorite at -210, with the underdog price tag on Asu Almabayev sitting at +180. See, Manel Kape is one of my favorite fighters in the sport. Obviously, clean counter striker, slick on the back foot, good pressuring moving forward as well, big power in his hands. Last knockout was brutal against Bruno Silva. I cashed in on that one. Didn't bet him by KO, but I did expect the KO. I bet him to win. I think it was inside the distance or under 2.5 rounds, one of those. That was big plus money that cashed in. And he's a great fighter to watch, right? Because he's rarely going to get out kickboxed on the feet. You know, he's one of the best strikers in the division. And I know he hasn't got that many finishes in the UFC. Like, he's got a couple now. He's racking them up. But the only fighters who he's really struggled against are really the top guys in the division. People like Alejandro Pantoja and Muhammad Marquez. Outside of that, he's just completely styling on dudes. And let me tell you something now. He's going to need to get into his flow and style on Asu Almabayev, because on that side, we have a beast wrestler and a beast MMA fighter in general coming out there from the Kazakhstan region. He's undefeated in the UFC, never lost a fight, actually has a win over one of Manel Kape's former opponents that beat Manel Kape in Matheus Nicolau, and you know, Asu beat him. So Manel Kape's going to need to be on his A game, man, but of course, so is Asu Almabayev. These fighters couldn't be more different, right? Asu is nowhere near the striker Manel Kape is, but Manel Kape is nowhere near the grappler Asu is, right? Asu's going to come here, shoot a bunch of takedowns. You know what? Maybe he's not going to shoot 15, 20, but the guy's going to shoot 5 to 10, in my opinion. I think he's going to need to win this fight. So Asu's coming in off a recent fight where he was pretty underwhelming in that spot, in my opinion. You know, he beat Matheus Nicolau. Matheus Nicolau almost beat himself in that fight, right? You know, he gave away the first round just from doing nothing, which Nicolau does do often. And then he made one bad mistake in the later rounds, which cost him the entire fight. You know, it was a very close fight. So, you know, you could look at this fight saying Asu was lucky to get the win against Matheus Nicolau. But if we're looking at Asu's Nicolau performance, we have to look at Kape's Nicolau performance as well. And, you know, Kape had a worse performance against Nicolau. Kape lost against Nicolau. It was a split decision. It was very close. I believe you could have scored it to Kape. It really come down to the round 3.
I thought Kape probably landed the more meaningful shots, but he kind of just let the fight slip away from him. And he does that time and time again, man. Manel Kape lets fights slip out of his fingers, and he's been doing it since almost the dawn of time. He literally did it in his second to last fight against Muhammad Mokaev. You know, I bet on Mokaev there at -110, and obviously he fought well, right? He shot takedowns, but when he couldn't get Kape down, he basically just spammed body kicks from the outside and, you know, won a smart decision, but it was a very close fight. Kape injured himself during the fight, which kind of added some weird volatility to it. It's hard to kind of come out with a concrete opinion after that fight on who was value, who would have won, whatever. Obviously, I was happy to cash the Muhammad Mokaev moneyline bet, but it's not like it was a domination or anything. Like, Kape could have feasibly won that fight, but he didn't because he let it get away from him by not throwing enough strikes. I honestly think that if they fight tomorrow and the same thing happens, but Manel Kape makes literally 1 or 2 changes, he could win that fight, right? But he let the fight slip away from him basically by not doing enough. And I think a lot of people this week will maybe be saying to themselves, Kape lost it, you know, the fight against Mokaev because he let it slip away from himself, but he would have learned from that. He's not going to do that again. But I just don't think that's true, because if we go back to Manel Kape's very first fight in the UFC against Alejandro Pantoja, his UFC debut, he did the exact same thing as he did in the Mokaev fight. He didn't throw enough strikes, he seemed tentative on the feet, and he let the fight slip away from him. He did the same thing against Nicolau. He let the fight slip away from him. So this is like multiple times during his UFC tenure where he's let the fight slip away from him. So I don't think you can just rely on this guy to learn from his previous mistakes and not make them in the future, because he's never done it in the past, right? So I think there's a big possibility that Asu Almabayev can actually win minutes on the feet in this fight. He can win rounds on the feet in this fight. One thing I've noticed about Manel Kape is that he seems to get a little bit worried when the takedown threat is there on his opponent's side, and that stifles his striking offense. Manel Kape got controlled on the ground by Nicolau when they fought, right? And after that, he was more tentative to throw his own strikes because he didn't want to get taken down. The same thing against Pantoja, right? Pantoja is known as a grappler, a beast rear naked choke artist. Maybe the best rear naked choke in UFC history. It's definitely up there. So, you know, Kape seemed to be scared of the grappling and not throw enough strikes. Against Muhammad Mokaev, the exact same thing. His opponent had a grappling advantage, so he's just not extending himself, overextending himself, because he doesn't want to get taken down. So if he does that in this fight, he is literally at risk of doing the same thing that has plagued his career, which is giving away minutes on the feet to the inferior striker because he's worried about the takedown. And let me tell you something now, Asu will make him worried about the takedown. Asu shoots in multiple fights. He's shot, you know, upwards of 15 takedowns in just 3 or 4 UFC fights. That's a high takedown average. And if he gets top control here, I believe he can ground Kape and win some minutes on top. Now, I don't think it's going to be easy for him to get a takedown. I honestly don't, because Manel Kape is so athletic, so fast, so quick to the reaction, and he's fought so many grapplers in his whole career, rising and now the UFC, that I think he's just leveled up his takedown defense and just range management in general. And so I don't think it's going to be easy for Asu to get takedowns, but this is a real intriguing one for me, boys. I honestly think, you know, to conclude the breakdown, I honestly think that it really comes down to how Manel Kape looks. If he comes in here with a good game plan to not worry that much about the takedowns, because like he's still got the takedown defense in his back pocket. You know, even if he overextends once or twice, I don't think it means instantly Asu's going to get a takedown. You know, I still favor Manel Kape to potentially, you know, push his hips out, get his back to the cage, dig underhooks, and peel off the fence. So I think Manel Kape needs to go in here, establish some dominance, establish power striking, show Asu that Asu is the inferior striker in this one, not worry so much about the wrestling like he has done in multiple fights that I mentioned earlier in the breakdown, and then start to get in his flow and put hands on Asu Almabayev. I think if he does that, Asu starts to panic, starts to mentally panic, starts to get pieced up and actually knocked out in the later rounds here. That's my eventual prediction for this fight. Manel Kape via knockout in rounds 3, 4, or 5. Now, I'm not super confident in this breakdown, guys. I always like to kind of give you my confidence level, because like you could, you know, if I just break down every fight, then you might just go on my prediction for every fight and maybe make a bet on all those fights, right? But if I tell you where I'm confident and where I'm not confident, you can understand my predictions more, and maybe you can base your own bets or your own analysis a little bit heavier on the predictions that I'm more confident about. I'm not super confident about this prediction, even though I am predicting Kape to win this fight. I'm not super confident about it because I really do think it comes down to the mental and strategic game of Manel Kape. Like I said, if he comes out here and he's tentative based on the takedown offense of Asu, I think he's going to lose the fight, and Asu could actually even look like the favorite as a big underdog here, right? So it seems to me like the value on the money line is on Asu Almabayev. And if you're making a play on the money line, it has to be Asu Almabayev. But I believe that overall, Manel Kape will win the fight. I think if money keeps on coming in on Asu, I may make a play on Manel Kape, because this is all a numbers game at the end of the day, boys. If you're a beginner gambler, one thing that you have to understand, and I won't go too in depth on this, you can find this out by watching a plethora of my other videos on this very YouTube channel, Lucrative James. Just go and look at them. They're free. But one thing for beginner gamblers that you have to understand is that you don't bet on who you think is going to win. You bet on where you believe the value lies. I didn't really think Ricky Simón was going to win last week. Like, I thought he could win, but I wasn't outright saying he's definitely going to win. But I bet on him at a massive price of plus 250. And what happened? He won the fight. I was predicting Basharat to win, but I bet on Ricky Simón, right? That is the game in a nutshell, right? So my prediction anyway, to conclude, boys, to not go down this rabbit hole of teaching you how to bet, you can watch my other videos for that, is that Manel Kape gets a win and he ultimately fights for the title within the next 16 months. I like the KO prop for Manel Kape. I like the KO 3-4-5 prop, late round prop, submission 3-4-5. Manel Kape to finish the fight in the later rounds is something that I may look to target as like an upside bet, right? You put a little bit of money on it, but if it cashes, you earn a lot of money. That's my prediction, boys. Let's see how it plays out. So, boys, the next fight of the evening is the co-main event. And I don't know how this made it to co-main, but, shout out to these guys because they made it to co-main. It's Cody Brundage taking on Julian Marquez. Julian Marquez, most well known for shaving Miley Cyrus's name into his chest or being called out to, and then he didn't do it. Something crazy like that. You guys remember that? Remind me of what exactly happened in the comment section, because I remember that taking over the MMA space for like a day or two. So we got Cody Brundage coming in with a record of 10 wins with 6 losses, and Julian Marquez having a similarly poor record of 9 wins and 5 losses. Currently, the price tag is Julian Marquez sitting at a minus 140 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Cody Brundage coming back at plus 120. So, boys, I'm not going to spend long on this one. I like to spend long on fights I care about and have a strong read on, or in fights that I believe that I need to tell you a lot of information about, even though I might not have a strong read on it. But there are some fights where I just feel like I don't have a lot of information to tell you. I don't really care about speaking about it too long. And I also don't think that we can take much from the data we do have to put it into our betting process this weekend. So it's just not worth talking about it. And this is definitely one of those fights, boys. I think this fight is so volatile that both fighters are extremely untrustworthy that it's just not worth me giving much time on it. But obviously I'll get into it. So, first things first, I'm looking at the fight and I'm thinking no one should be an underdog here, right? I'm looking at it saying that this should be a minus 110 line, right? And obviously I'm seeing plus 120 on Cody Brundage, which is a decent edge there, minus 110 to plus 120 is a decent percentage implied edge I have on the fight, right? But doesn't mean I have to bet. You don't have to bet every single time you see an edge. But honestly, don't think Julian Marquez should be minus 140 here. I mean, Julian Marquez, all right, he's got a lot of dog in him. He's going to push through, but he gets hurt in almost every fight he's ever fought. He's losing a lot of fights that he comes back and ultimately wins. In fights, sometimes he's losing and just gets completely dominated. Knocked out early in round 1 by Zachary Reese. Knocked out early in round 1 by Gregory Rodriguez. And if there's something that Cody Brundage is good at, it's at hitting you hard early and potentially knocking you out in round 1. I mean, we see him do it against Zachary Reese, and that was somebody I just told you knocked out Julian Marquez early in round 1. Cody Brundage has also hurt a bunch of guys. He smashed Rodolfo Vieira in that round 1, almost had him finished, had him on skates. Obviously ended up getting submitted himself there, right? But Cody Brundage can hit hard early, right? That's something he definitely can do. And coming against Julian Marquez, I don't think it's going to be hard to find his chin. So straight off the bat, I'm thinking Cody Brundage round 1 KO. Are we playing that prop? I actually played Cody Brundage round 1 KO against Jacob Malkoun at a massive number, plus 2,000, and it cashed. It cashed because it was a disqualification, so it definitely wasn't a good bet. It was one of the luckiest cashes I've had maybe in my betting career, not even MMA betting career, but there's a reason I bet on there. I didn't bet because I thought he was going to quit. I bet because I saw what he did to Rodolfo Vieira. I've seen him crack guys early. He then went on to get a legitimate KO. It was a slam, albeit, but it was a legitimate KO against Zachary Reese, someone who actually I bet on him against, right? I bet on Cody Brundage at, again, massive odds, plus 300, plus 200 there. So, I do see some good things in his game. He hits hard. He can wrestle. He just gasses out badly in every fight. He seems to take the easy way out and quit when he's in certain positions. And I don't like to say that about a professional fighter, because I have fought myself and nowhere near the level of these guys. So I have the utmost respect for anyone who steps in the ring, but then even more respect for someone who fights at the higher level, the highest level in the UFC, somewhere I personally could never make it to, right? So it's always weird when I'm saying someone may be a bit of a quitter, maybe a bit of a flaker, but I have to tell it like it is. And from what I've seen in the UFC, you know, Cody Brundage has quit in certain spots that, you know, maybe he necessarily could have pushed through if he had a little bit more grit, a little bit more heart, or maybe a little bit more gas, you know, maybe a combination of the three. It's always hard to know what the fighters are feeling in there, but I definitely think that Julian Marquez is someone who's going to push harder, someone who wants it more, and someone who has better cardio. So if the fight gets into round 2 and round 3, I favor Marquez to win that fight, but I favor Cody Brundage to hurt him in round 1 hard. But then Julian Marquez can also hurt you in round 1, you know? So it's a weird one, boys. Ultimately, I'm going to predict Cody Brundage to get this one done. Actually, am I? I don't even know, man. Boys, like, you know, I've never really done this. I've never, like, at least in my recent shows, right? You know, in the Lucrative MMA betting show series, I don't think I've ever said 50-50 fight. But yeah, this one's a 50-50 for me, boys. All right, I'm going to say Cody Brundage gets a knockout. I am going to say it. I'm going to say Cody Brundage gets a first round KO. I might bet on it myself because I think it'll be big odds, especially considering he's the underdog. You know, I might get like plus 800 on that or something. I'll probably chuck some money on that one myself. But yeah, this is a 50-50 fight, boys. I don't think you should bet the fight unless you can get massive underdog odds. I don't think the fight's going to decision. You know, so minus 300 on the doesn't go isn't that bad. Under 1.5 rounds could be a good shot based on the odds, depending on the odds. But overall, massive pass fight for me. Maybe I'll take a poke on Cody Brundage KO round 1. But that's it, boys. Let me get on to another fight. I've spoke about this one well enough. Right, the next fight on the card is Nasrat Haqparast taking on Esteban Ribovics. And let me tell you something now, boys. This is a banger of a fight. So currently we have Esteban Ribovics sitting as the favorite. He is coming in with a 14-1 record. And on the other hand, we have Nasrat Haqparast coming in with a 17-5 record. Esteban Ribovics, like I mentioned, is the favorite, a big favorite too. He's minus 275 odds, with Nasrat Haqparast sitting at odds of plus 235. Now, look, I kind of understand why there's been some money coming in this week on Nasrat Haqparast, and the reason for that is obvious, right? Is because he has the much better UFC level competition record. He has beaten some guys that are at a higher level than Esteban Ribovics wins. For example, Jared Gordon, Jamie Malarkey, Joaquin Silva. But in the same token, I do see why Ribovics is the favorite in this matchup. You know, he's coming in off a good win against Daniel Zellhuber, who isn't, you know, proven at the UFC level, but somebody that I believe will go on to do very good things in the UFC, already has put on a good win streak in the UFC, and I believe he will go on to do good things. So that is a good win in my opinion. Very close fight, banger of a fight, got fight of the night, actually almost got fight of the year. I think a lot of people class it as fight of the year. I don't know if it actually won it on the awards. I think it may have, but that was at UFC Noche. But that's definitely a good win, right? And yeah, like I was saying, like I do understand why he's the favorite. He's the much more durable guy. In my opinion, he's got more tools on the feet. And he's someone that has got better recoverability. He's younger. He's improving at a faster rate. He has the career trajectory upside, and somebody who, in my opinion, has the better cardio and someone who doesn't flake as much as Nasrat Haqparast. I've seen time and time again that Nasrat, you know, he kind of wilts. Like he's still there, but he kind of wilts when fights get a little bit tough. He did it a little bit in a Jared Gordon fight. He wilted a little bit in that one. He wilted in the Drew Dober fight back in the day. Got knocked out clean in that one. Even in the Rafa Garcia fight, like, he didn't wilt, but like there was times in that fight where I felt like he didn't really like the pressure of Rafa. He was, you know, he's just a much better striker, so he was able to just outstrike him in the end, but it definitely seemed like, yeah, he was getting a little bit tired. He didn't love the pressure, and it's been a telltale sign throughout his career, right? He deals with it fairly well, but I also have seen that chink in his armor, and let me tell you something now. Someone like Esteban Ribovics is going to bring that shit out of you. He's going to bring the quit out of you. He's going to bring the wilt out of you. And I think he may do it in this matchup. You know, I understand why people are taking a shot on Nasrat because he's the much more proven guy. I just think Esteban has such a big durability upside that it's going to be tough to win the late rounds. Like, I think Nasrat has a good chance of knocking Esteban Ribovics out early. In round 1, he cracks hard. I think that his boxing's going to be a little bit sharper, faster. He's more of a veteran. He may just, you know, be more comfortable in there early. So Ribovics seems like someone who kind of needs to wake up a little bit in there. You know, from time to time, he's kind of been a bit sloppy early in rounds. You know, he lost the first round to Kamala Kirk easy. I believe he got hurt in the first round against Loic Radzabanov, but he come on late in those fights. Same in the Zellhuber fight. You know, he was coming on late. So, you know, he may give away the early round here. He may get hurt. I've seen him get hurt multiple times in the UFC. So he's there to be hit. I think his recoverability is better though. I expect him to weather the storm. I expect him to come on late and potentially break Nasrat Haqparast. I don't know if he'll win inside the distance because, you know, Nasrat's still a tough guy himself. Ribovics, I don't think is just this crazy finisher. He's going to finish everybody. He didn't finish Kirk, and Kirk was completely gassed out, so that's not a great look. He didn't finish Selhuber. I know he hurt him badly, but he didn't finish him. And then obviously McKinney, he just caught with a crazy shot. He didn't finish Loic. Again, he almost did, but he didn't. So, yeah, I'm not guaranteeing he's finishing him, but I do think it's very possible. Esteban Ribovics via KO in round 2 and round 3 might be a way I play the fight. So, yeah, man, I'm thinking the fight's going to be close minute to minute, but I trust the durability of Ribovics more. I trust the career trajectory of Ribovics more. I trust the heart and cardio of Ribovics more, and the grit and determination and will to win. You can couple loads of those things, but yeah, I'll say that they're separate entities to some degree, and I trust all of those things more in Ribovics than Nasrat Haqparast. So ultimately, I will pick him to win this one, to dog out the fight, to come through tough moments, and ultimately put a beat down on Nasrat Haqparast and either finish him late inside the distance or via decision, a clear 29-28 type decision. So we're getting through them now, boys. Now we got the next fight on the card, and I can be kind of quick with this one as well. This is Austen Lane taking on Mario Pinto. So currently they have Mario Pinto the favorite, and of course he would be. You know, he's coming into the UFC with a shiny 9-0 record, coming off the Dana White's Contender Series. We know the market loves those undefeated fighters or just fighters coming off Dana White's Contender Series in general. Shout out to Zurong against Cody still. Shout out to Austin Bashi against Christian Rodriguez. We cashed on the dogs there, the massive dogs, twice this year, and I gave them out on this show as well. But yeah, Mario Pinto coming in with a record of 9-0. Facing Austen Lane with a record of 13-5. Currently, they have Mario Pinto as the big favorite, massive favorite at -400, with the underdog price tag on Austen Lane coming back at +350. Now, I feel like the value boys are going to play Lane here, and I feel like the value boys are going to get knocked out here. I'm picking a Mario Pinto KO, and the reason for that is because we just cannot trust Lane's chin. Also, Lane has been finished in every single loss, right? So if he loses here, most likely he's going to get finished, based on his entire historical career, based on his lack of cardio in fights where he's not getting his offensive wrestling going, and sometimes even in fights where he is, and just based on his lack of striking ability. I mean, Mario Pinto is the much better striker here, the much cleaner striker. He's going to be landing the 1-2 at range, and I have seen Mario Pinto defend some takedowns throughout his career on the regional scene specifically. I've seen him taken down as well. So it's not like a guarantee that Lane doesn't have any success here. I just don't think Lane's going to sit on top of him for 2 or 3 rounds and win the fight. I just don't see it, right? I will say, if you're betting Mario Pinto, be careful. As I said, he's got a 9-0 record. He's coming in off the Dana White's Contender Series, and he's a massive favorite. It hasn't worked out well for him this year. It hasn't worked out well for him in terms of their line based on what they actually look like throughout the entire Dana White's Contender Series run, to be honest. The market is still not catching up to that edge. And yeah, I've been screaming about that edge for a long time. I've been betting against it for a long time. The market just, one edge that the market doesn't catch up on a lot of time is hype, right? Because we just saw Jake Paul as the bet of maybe the lifetime. And I told you guys that I cashed $100,000, over $100,000 on Jake Paul when he fought Mike Tyson. And the only reason we got good odds is because of hype. So hype is one edge that seems to stay, through all sports forever, and I guess Dana White's Contender Series edge is basically based on hype itself. So maybe it will just never go, boys. So yeah, I'll just say, a word of warning betting on someone coming in to the UFC, making their debut. They have UFC jitters. That's a real thing. I've spoken about it heavily. If you know me, you'll know that one of my biggest things is fading fighters making the UFC debut, or at least erring on the side of caution if they are making a UFC debut. I bet on debutantes as well, boys, right? I bet on them as well. I lay juice on them sometimes, but yeah, just a word of warning. But boys, yeah, I don't need to speak about this one too much more. Ultimately, I feel like Lane may have some early success because Pinto does start slow. Lane will go to his grappling. We know that for sure. So he can potentially have some success, but I feel like this fight's going to be similar to the Denise fight. He takes Pinto down. He looks all right. But Denise ends up, back on his feet at some point and knocks Austen Lane out. So I'm predicting Mario Pinto to win via knockout, and I may even bet it if the odds are right. The next fight we have on the card is a bit of a banger, to be honest. I know you wouldn't think I would say that about a William Gomis fight, but just wait till you hear who the opponent is. So yeah, we got William Gomis versus the crazy MFer Hyder Amil. So currently, William Gomis is the favorite. And so he's coming into this fight with a record of 14-2 against the underdog Hyder Amil, who comes into this fight with a record of 10-0. Currently, they have William Gomis at -185, with the underdog price tag on Hyder Amil sitting at +160. So first of all, shout out to William Gomis. I've cashed on him a couple of times in his UFC career, most notably in his last fight where he fought Joe Anderson Brito. I actually played him via decision there. The odds I got was +500. He was +240 underdog, and I bet him via decision at +500. So massive price tag there. Obviously, that was a controversial fight. People scored that fight for Brito. I thought it was a very close fight. I think there's an argument for Gomis. I think there's an argument for Brito. But I do think that there is zero argument. And actually, I don't think, this is a guarantee, that there is no argument that Joe Anderson Brito was -300 favorite in that spot. Obviously, William Gomis was an amazing bet. Joe Anderson Brito was a horrific bet. Regardless of the outcome of the fight, we need to look at what happened in the fight. It was a very close nip and tuck fight. Anyone could have won a decision. They gave it to William Gomis, and yeah, he more than covered his line at +240. So I like William Gomis. He's somebody that a lot of the market doesn't like, but someone that I do like. And, you know, I always like those fighters where the market doesn't really like them, so then there's a big edge on them. And, you know, I honestly think that there could be some value, yet again, on the line of William Gomis, because he is very good at what he does, right? He's kind of a boring fighter. He bounces on the outside, point fights, but he's very good at that fight, you know? He's very good at that fight. He does it to almost everyone he fights. He bounced around Francis Marshall until the last round. And, you know, for the first 2 rounds, he was just piecing them apart. It was just kind of easy work for him, you know? He did the same against Joe Anderson Brito. You know, he kind of just bounced him around the outside and kind of just piecing him up. And I think that he has a very good chance of doing it to Hyder Amil. Now, I will say that this fight is in the small cage, boys, right? We're in the apex. So it's a smaller cage. And that definitely suits Hyder Amil's style. I mean, Hyder Amil is the complete opposite to William Gomis. This guy just runs forward into range, goes insane, tries to knock you out, throws the kitchen sink at you, gasses himself out in the process, doesn't care if he's gassed out, keeps on fighting. It's like the complete opposite to William Gomis. So it's like, whose style will win? Is it the bull or is it the matador? I personally believe that William Gomis, his whole style is kind of made for people like Hyder Amil. I don't necessarily think Hyder Amil's style is made for people like William Gomis. Hyder Amil does best when you stand in front of him, when you plant your feet and try and throw strikes. Just like Park did in his, what's that guy's name? Park? I can't remember. I've taped so much. I do so much research. I forgot that last dude's name. I actually bet on the under 2.5 rounds in that fight, so I should know, and I watched it the other day. But that Korean dude, I think his name was Park, right? Yeah, that type of fighter who's going to try and pinpoint you, it's kind of a good stylistic matchup for Amil, because Amil's going to walk forward, and if he can land, then you're kind of effed, right? Because he's got a good chin and he's going to keep walking forward. But Gomis bounces on the outside. He never stands still. It's going to be so annoying for Amil to play this catch-up game. Now, I will say, if Amil does catch him, Gomis is not about that life in the pocket. He is not really built, you know, to take huge bombs in the pocket. He did show some decent things against Joe Anderson Brito, though. He clinches you when you come up close. And yeah, boys, you know, without repeating myself, ultimately, I just feel that Gomis' style is way better suited to fight Amil than Amil's style is suited to fight Gomis. So for that reason, I'm going to pick William Gomis to win this fight. I'm going to pick him to win it via decision because I think Amil's a tough motherfucker and Gomis is not really a finisher. I mean, he literally is a decisionator. So I'll pick William Gomis to win this fight via decision, 29-28 or 30-27. And that is it, boys. But now we have got to the most exciting portion of the Lucrative MMA betting show. This is where I give you a chance to win 1 month free to my Elite Zone. So if you don't know what my Elite Zone is, it's my VIP members community, which you can join, where I give you my full betting picks for any official bets that I make on the UFC card. For example, last week we had our 10-unit max play on Fluffy and Mansour in the parlay. Obviously, everyone in my Elite Zone got that. I also have full card breakdowns on there. So basically what I'm doing now, but for every single fight on the card, everyone in my Elite Zone gets that. We also give out long shot parlays, long shot prop bets. I give out some bets that I'm not making, but I still think hold value. Last week, I gave out Ion Cutelaba plus 155. That cashed. I also gave out Cutelaba, fight doesn't go to decision, and the under 1.5, which again, both cashed. And I give out Ricky Simone point spread at minus 150, which cashed as well. So that is a solid section. People get a lot of value from that. I also give out the best parlay pieces on, you know, the entire card and for the entire weekend. And I also give out regional scene bets. So, you know, LFA, Cage Warriors, all my bets on those organizations, KSW, etc. I give those out on the Elite Zone as well. So the Elite Zone is a highly valuable package. You can go and sign up to that right now. If you want to get access, you can get instant access by clicking the link in the bio. But right now, I'm going to spin the Wheel of Fortune, the lucrative Wheel of Fortune. And whoever it lands on, I'm going to give you 1 month free of the Elite Zone. So the names I have in the Wheel of Fortune are everybody who commented on the show last week and in my previous videos. So if you want to be in with a chance to win Elite Zone for next week, and next week we have a massive pay-per-view. So I definitely recommend you do this. All you need to do is completely free to enter. Just do a good comment below, write a good comment, and you'll automatically be entered into the draw for next week's show. Like I said, if you don't want to wait that long, you can just click the link in the bio now. But without further ado, we're going to spin it and see who wins. All right, boys, I'm going to spin the Wheel of Fortune and let's do it. All right, we're spinning, boys. Who's it going to land on? All right, let's see. There's too many names I can't even see, but it's going to land on someone. There we go. MMA D Rob. Shout out to MMA Rob. You have just won 1 month of the lucrative MMA Elite Zone. All you need to do is DM me on social media, whether that be Twitter or Instagram, and I'll get you in the Elite Zone. If you haven't won it, don't try and DM me because I can verify who MMA D Rob is. I already have his profile. So congratulations, Rob. Let's make some cash. Get in ASAP so you get all bets for this weekend, full card breakdowns, etc. And before the pay-per-view next weekend. Like I said, boys, if you didn't win this week, it's all right. We're going to do one next week. If you don't want to wait till next week, if you want all of my official bets and all of that content that I mentioned earlier for this weekend, you can just click the link in my bio, lucrativemmabetting.com, and you can go and sign up there. If you want to earn money with me on all other sports, basketball, hockey, baseball, tennis, etc., then you can also do that. I have professional gamblers in all sports that I work with, and I give you their picks. So you can, again, click one of the links in the bio or go to lucrativebettingtips.com and just click a sport that you like, and you can sign up with me there. But that's really it, boys. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Yet again, comment down below to be in with a chance to win next weekend. And let's cash it, boys. We have been on a crazy run with these shows, you know, doing them again and again and again and again, and giving out a lot of good information and bets in all of them. So I hope you guys enjoy it. We're gaining a lot of traction now. We're gaining a lot of views. Views are climbing every week, so I appreciate every single one of you. And I think that's because of the success of the show, because of the bets we've been giving out and stuff. So hopefully we can do it again, boys. I'm going to jump in the ocean now because I'm sweating a little bit, giving you breakdowns. Catch you next week, boys. Let's cash this weekend. Bang.